the masterful play of that system is they've caused us to look left and right at each other and see an enemy. They rob us in front of us now.
Yeah.
They don't even hide it anymore because the play that they put down was so masterful, they don't need to hide anymore. We're so busy blaming one another. White people blaming black people blaming immigrants, immigrants blaming other immigrants.
What's up, guys? It's Neveen The Queen with SongLab Live, and I'm here with some really special guests that I'm really excited about. We got Q Ramses of Civic Cipher.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you for having us.
I'm super excited to have you here. My studio manager, Fleek, has been trying to get me to get you guys in here for a very long time. And I told
Fleek.
Yeah, shout out Fleek. He always be hiding back there. And I was like, you know what? I know Ramses. He's my friend, right? You're my friend, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure.
We were sure for decades now.
I've been knowing you for like, I have pretty bad memory too, but I'm pretty sure it's been over 20 years.
Yeah, that's what, if I had to guess, it'd be something like that.
And we met here in Arizona was it the rave scene? Like, or after the rave scene?
Your guess would be as good as mine.
How long have you been here?
I moved to Arizona in 1990.
Okay, so yes, it's back then.
Yeah, I've been here for quite a while, but you know how it works. You end up immersed in a scene, in a culture, in a tribe, like a larger tribe in a sense, and there are faces that you become familiar with over time, and you know when you do interact, it feels like they've kind of always been there. So there is no start date or end date to certain relationships. There's just kind of, you know, you come together when the universe pushes you together, and then when the universe pushes you in other ways, you find yourself, you know, maybe a little distant, but it's always love and it's always family. So 20 years would definitely not be something that I would, you know, turn my nose up at or anything. That feels right on brand for both of us.
It's probably over 20 years, but I don't really need you guys to know how old I am. It's been a while.
I met her when she was 6, 7 years old, somewhere in there. Yeah.
I was partying in the rave scene when I was 6
Exactly.
years old.
Right.
Right, there we go.
Understood.
There we go. So yeah, we've definitely met in the music scene. We'll come back to that because I want to dive deeper into that. And you, I just met you.
Yes.
Maybe a month ago with IROC.
Yeah, about that long.
Eric Daniels. Where are you from?
I'm from Detroit, Michigan.
Talk to him.
You know, Motown, as you guys might know it. And part of why our connection was so instant, a lot of people around the country might not know, but the largest concentration of people from your part of the world
Yes.
live in my city. You know, so shout out to my Chaldean tribe.
Chaldean, Dearborn.
Shout out to my Uncle Harold. He was the GM at Fairlane Town Center when I was a youngin'. That's in Dearborn, Michigan. That's the fancy shopping mall.
Oh, damn. Okay.
And, you know, typically outside of Detroit, most people may have never even heard of Chaldean before.
No.
So it was to meet someone and have us both recognize that at hello, it built an instant bridge, and we've been locked in ever since.
I appreciate that so much because I'm from Chicago originally, but I did live in Dearborn for a little bit of time when I moved from Kuwait. I was born in Kuwait and I moved to Detroit, Dearborn. And then being Chaldean, we're like the rarest in the world. But when when someone's from Detroit, I'm like, oh my God, it feels like home because I'm like, he knows who I am. Because if I'm in Arizona, everyone's like, are you Mexican?
Okay.
Are you white? And I'm like,
Italian, maybe.
not here. In Arizona specifically, it's Mexican or white. And I'm like, do I look Mexican and white to y'all? But so it was like, really, which is fine. I mean, I'm happy to be whatever color as long as I'm a good person. But when somebody goes, hey, you're Chaldean, I'm like, oh my God, I feel seen.
Yeah.
You know?
I could see that, yeah.
So that was super dope. Where are you from? You said Detroit, Michigan. When did you come
Northwest Detroit, 7 Mile Road to be specific. I need to point that out for people.
Let's be really real.
Specific.
Came to Arizona in 2003. My best friend went to ASU, came to visit for a few days, 23 years ago now, and just fell in love with not having to scrape ice off of my car in the morning in February. That was the easy explanation as to why I stayed. And, you know, Arizona kind of became home at that point. My mom and my family are all still back in Detroit, but you know, Arizona is where I return to when I go off somewhere else in the world, because I've lived in, you know, a few countries since I moved here, more than a dozen cities since I moved here, but I always come back to Arizona. And of course, the family's still back in Detroit, so I got a home away from home now.
Yeah, Arizona's easy to come back to. I've been doing that since I was like 12, I think. I remember when I came to visit Emil. You know Emil, my brother Emil, DJ Emil.
Okay.
Mom Shelter DJs,
Yeah.
maybe. But I used to come and visit them when I was in Chicago. I'd come here and I started getting involved in the music scene, or just like going to, I was like, yo, this place is awesome. This place is cool. I'm like, these motherfuckers are weird and I love it. They got piercings in their face. They got colored hair. I don't know what the hell they're doing. The music, the dance, it's cool. I'd go back and report that to Chicago. I'm like, y'all, they're like Arizona.
Yeah, I can see
Like,
that.
what's in Arizona? The Wild Wild West? Because I was always with my,
Yeah.
and they're like, because they're all my Puerto Rican homies or whatever. And I'm like, no, it's really fucking cool, actually. So I kept coming back and just like moving all around. And I could never get away from it. I fell in love with Arizona too. And then, you know, when I was here long enough, I always thought I didn't want to be here anymore. And I moved to LA, and then I'd be in LA and I'm like, you know, I miss AZ. I miss it.
Well,
So
as somebody, you know, from California, you know, we've had, Q and I have had a couple of conversations recently on our various programs that we create. You know, I was born in Compton, California. So the earliest years of my life were shaped by like traumas and like fear and all kind of crazy stuff, right? And it's interesting now with, you know, Kendrick kind of being all the way up in the moment, that people are kind of looking at Compton like it's this amazing place. And Compton gave me my origin story. You know, it's going to be a part of my heart and my family. You know, we lived there. All the trauma and stuff, we felt that together, right? And it definitely shaped my outlook on life, and it shaped my priorities and shaped a number of things. But, you know, coming from a place like that at a time like that, because that was in the 80s when I lived there.
yeah, that was.
So it was crack was real bad, and the
Yeah.
LAPD was real bad, and gangs was real bad. It was, you know, I look at a place like Arizona like, man, you don't have to be scared every day. You know what I'm saying? If you walk to school, you don't have to be afraid that somebody's gonna take your shoes. You know, it ain't always police sirens and something on fire and some people fighting in the streets and some shooting or some loud noise. You don't know what it is. So Arizona is an easy place to fall in love with when you come from a place that's maybe a little bit more, it's still evolving, you know, and I guess all cities are still evolving, but this place for me was just as much of a refuge as it was for the both. So yeah, I can concur.
You look like you're from Compton.
Do I?
Not
Word.
People tell me I look like I'm from like Cuba. People tell me all kind of places.
style.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Somewhere else. Your persona, your vibe. You just look dangerous.
Yeah, wow. Okay. Well, I try not to be.
Lean in, Rams.
If I need to be.
Right.
I learned. You know what I'm
Sometimes
saying?
I'm like, is he mad at me or?
Nah. I'm a kind man. I'm a good heart. I say this too quite a bit, but if I'd have stayed in California, you know, I know there's no doubt in my mind I'd have grew up and I'd have been a gangbanger. That was the path for me 100%. I'd have been a good one too. But you know, this was the path for me, and I'm glad because I can be a living testament to what an environment can do to a person and what circumstances can do. And it expands the conversation from all you got to do is just work hard and overcome your obstacles to, well, listen, a fortunate set of circumstances leads to a fortunate set of outcomes. And that's kind of the basis of, you know, a lot of our conversations that Q and I have. So, you know, I'm grateful for my background and my upbringing. And, you know, where I am is a function of all that. But in terms of who I am, I mean, no one any harm. I mean, don't run up because I'm not the one. Don't play with me. But you know, I don't mean anybody any harm. I'm a kind person. I try to be.
Kind is different than I'm fuck you up. You can still be kind, yeah, I'm fuck you up. Like,
Yeah, but I don't move with that energy. I don't want to. I want to live a happy life. I want to see my children play. I want to, you know, I want to laugh. You know, and one of the things that I'm sure we'll get into it later in the conversation, but while we're here, one of the things that I think is very important for Black people to understand and remember, and all marginalized people, is that we weren't just born to die. We weren't just born to fight. We weren't just born to struggle. You know what I'm saying? We deserve to laugh. We deserve, peace. We deserve, smiles. And we shouldn't have to be angry and aggressive and defensive for our entire lives. It's not fair. And, especially when I'm talking about Black people, we are the original human beings, the first to be called Homo sapiens sapiens. And so all of the things that we're capable of experiencing, we deserve to experience those things. And so when we have the opportunities, as Q always reminds me, we should lean into them. And so, yes, it is important to be able to, be a man and defend your family, provide, protect, all these sorts of things. You should have them as part and parcel to your being. But to live your life in that space at a constant state of readiness and a constant state of fear of what could go wrong, I think that we're robbing ourselves of indeed the fullness of an experience of what life has to offer. We should be able to laugh. Q and I, we laugh so much. We laugh till we cry. And even though we touch on heavy subjects, we cry about those in the studio. We deal with so much stuff. We make sure that we are each other's rock. And we're, and we have other, resources in our families and our friend circles and so forth. But yeah, we indeed plan to experience the fullness of life. We're not just going to be fighters. We're not just going to be, at war. We're not just going to be any one thing. We're going to have it all and leave this planet with nothing on the table. So that's my hope, at least. So no one has to be afraid. I'm not scared.
He's not scary. I'm just being dramatic for the usual because if you can't see with that fucking big ass chain, I like a little bit of drama.
That's nice. I like that.
Thanks. But no, you're off. Obviously I love you. I've been knowing you for forever. But I just like I like that you're, I guess you're just a little mysterious. Let's put it that way.
Well, I try to avoid crowds. I'm not good with big crowds. Q's a little bit better. He's a little bit more personable.
Yeah, I noticed
that. We're a good team.
I like it's like you got the yin and the yang. Yeah. And I caught that vibe when I met you. You're a lot more, I would say not more outgoing, but
I don't know. That's an ironic truth about Ramses, right? For people who know him in a professional sense, you see him on a microphone in a room full of people every week. You might think that's where he's most happy. But what you will notice in that room full of people and him with that microphone is that there is a clear separation. He is elevated and somewhere really in his own space, even in a room full of people, and enjoys sharing that energy with the people, but is very much a loner outside of that space. It's like once the clock runs out on that job he's doing, okay, it's time to go home. It's time to go home right now and be at home.
There's an ounce over there.
Yeah, and we about to bounce to it.
So ounce to the ounce.
Yeah, so it's
not a real ounce.
It's the interesting thing about the kind of juxtaposition of us both in that space is I am oxymoronic in that way as well. We joke we'd always rather be home with our kids, no matter what we're doing. When we're at work, when we're on trips, when we're doing our service to the community and to our people. My son and my daughter are at home. I would always rather be there with them. But when we're present, we show up in very different but very complementary ways, and in spaces where there are people that we need to connect with and relationships that we need to build. That's probably what God put me on earth to do. I think if you have to talk about what you're good at, meeting people and cultivating relationships with them is what I'm best at. That's not a sellable skill. And in some cases, it's not even a profitable skill. But I think the relationships that I develop better because of that. I'm not showing up to figure out what I can get from you.
I like that.
And in most cases, I'm wondering how I could be of service to you. What's the best way I could show up for you? What can Ramses and I do to amplify something that you're trying, right? Yeah. To bring attention to something that you're trying to get accomplished. And I think when you enter into relationships looking for ways to cultivate, looking for ways to add to and not take from, you build better relationships.
Absolutely.
We live in such a transactional time and such a litigious and transactional country. I think it's important when people can look at you and realize, oh, this person really doesn't need anything from me. This person really doesn't want anything from me. It's quite the contrary. This person is showing up, asking what they can do to help. I think that's unusual. And sometimes, you know, we've noticed it catches people off guard because they have a hard time knowing if you're genuine.
Yeah,
It's such a rare thing to show up asking, what can I do?
yeah.
And a lot of people pretend that they want to do things for you and overpromise and underdeliver. And I absolutely mean it. If I tell you that I want to do something or that I can, you know, hold me to it, and I'll prove that it's not just words.
I love that. We need more of that, you know? I mean, gosh, you nailed it. Like when I was living in Los Angeles and I was working for a label, I won't but yeah, everything was like that. And I started like when people would be like, "Hey girl," you know, and still to this day when they're like, "Hey girl, Neveen, I know," you know, like, "How are you?" And now I still have that at the back of my mind, like, "What do you want?" You know? And I don't like thinking that way because I'm the same way, but I feel like for me personally, I got taken advantage of so much because I love to help people. I love. And if I'm like, you know what, if I can help you in any way that I can, I want to, and I will. And that's just like by nature, that's like what's comfortable for me. But I'm sure it's like with guys too. But as a woman, it could get really bad because people will take. And especially if you're just like a kind person, like sometimes you don't know when to like, by the time I figured out like, God damn, you just been taking everything from me. And now I'm like seriously drained, you know? Like where do we draw the line? Like, how do we do this?
One of the things that I think that Q is really good at doing is when Q meets somebody, and we do have to meet people, we have to have conversations with people. Q, he looks people in the eye with an intensity that I think is very rare. And he stands physically close. You know, Q is physically like a bigger, you know, like physically, I don't want to say imposing, but he holds his manliness in his form. Right?
Confident.
And he stands very close to a person and not in a way that's intimidating, but rather in a way that provides security. And for a lot of the people that we meet, just his energy, this is an observer, you know, we've never had this conversation before, but I can see his intentionality. And then I can see how it permeates and how it goes forth and how it causes people to feel like, you know, there's something about this person. He really took a moment. He turned the room off and he really looked me in the eye and he stood close to me and he held my gaze, and I feel like I really connected with him. And he's masterful at it. And I don't want to sell myself short because obviously in order to get to the point where I have in my career, everybody has to be good at that sort of a thing. But where that can be very intimidating for me, you know, at a point when nobody knows who you are, you know, you just kind of move how you move through a room. But once you get to a point where people understand, like, oh, that's the guy that, you know, whatever I was doing in the past or whatever I'm doing in the future now, you know, people start to recognize you and they come with their own expectations of who you're supposed to be to them. And the hard part for me is, I don't know that I've ever even said this on a mic before, but I have a mild condition that makes it very difficult to remember faces. Think, for those familiar, think prosopagnosia, but a mild, you know, case of that. And so remembering people's faces is very challenging for me. Add to that just like most folks, I'm not good with names.
Yeah.
And so I can remember an experience, I can remember an emotional imprint, but remembering you're the same person, if you have a different outfit or, you know, a different haircut, you know, I still watch cartoons because it's easy to follow the main character. They don't change their clothes. You know, you go and change your clothes, you might look like a different person, not you.
True.
But, you know, it takes a long time for me to really, and a lot of different experiences. And so when I'm in a room full of people, some of which might know me, some of which might not, it's very easy for me to, as Q refers to it, fry people. And people will come up and I just have no idea there, and they're talking and they're like, hey, remember this? And I'll be like, yeah. And I'm catching up to the conversation. And everybody deserves to be remembered. I think if nothing else, everyone deserves that. And sometimes I can't do that and I don't want to hurt anybody. So I start to intimidate myself like, oh, I might hurt someone. Let me not hurt anybody. Let me, you know, and when Q's there, he's so good at that.
picks up the cues.
Yeah, so I can usually stand behind Q in a space like that. I still have to, these people want to meet both of us. And so, to Q's point earlier when he said, that we have kind of a complementary thing that's not, we're not unlike each other, but we just work well together when we have to go places. And he's always known that about me. And he's always kind of jumped in and helped fill in that gap for me. And so, once you kind of cross over that point where, again, people start to recognize you, it can be a little bit overwhelming for a person like me, not for other people, I'm sure, but I don't want to hurt anybody. That's I would never, ever, ever do that to anybody. And yet I do it, from time
not
to
on
time.
purpose.
And it just feels awful. So
it is.
there's a reason. If I avoid people, there's a reason. I'm not just like,
now you know.
Yeah. So
I'm like that too. I have kind of bad memory. The worst is like from the 90s. I don't remember from the fucking 90s. I was doing ecstasy. I don't. Do you remember me? And I'm like, what did we do? That's like, I don't know. Yes, I don't remember. Like it's hard, but yeah. Thanks for explaining that.
Sure.
Now I don't feel so bad. Because I'm like, Ramses, we've been knowing each other for 20 something years. You're like,
no, so one of the things that
Later.
really does help, one of the things that really does help is if a person has like, unique features or, something about them that doesn't change moment to moment, typically I can latch onto those things. So I don't recall there ever being a point in time when I had to like get to know you.
Right.
So I don't know that I've had that experience per se,
No.
but I also kind of extend that same courtesy to other people that I do recognize that you might not remember me. And I know that I've been a person who, at least in the city where we live, has been one of the more celebrated people. I recognize that. I'm not feeling myself, but I just know it kind of comes with the work that I do.
yes.
But I've never leaned into that, like, oh yeah, clearly these people are looking at me because they know who I am. No, there's any number of reasons people could look at me. I could be on stage with a microphone, as Q mentioned. I could be just existing in my normal life. I recognize that, or at least I hear it quite a bit, that I have a look that is something that is maybe captivating is the right word. So people will look.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that they know me. It doesn't mean that they want to talk to me. It doesn't mean anything. And they might know me and I don't know them. And, so I just, as a rule, kind of adopted an approach that I think spares people from having to deal with, some uncomfortable situations. So if that has ever happened, I promise it was me worried that you probably didn't remember me, not the other way around.
No, I mostly just fucking with you.
Okay.
Right now, but no, you've always been sweet and genuine. Like for the times that we've met each other, and most of the time you're working. Well, like I said, I'm always like, so you're like just trying to do some work. You're like trying to understand. Like,
Salute. What's up?
am I seeing? Like, what is she doing? I'm like, you're like,
Well, no more.
now I know. I'll leave you alone.
No. Moving forward, I know now that, to give a little bit more to the moment.
That I'm extra.
Yeah, I got you.
As long as you know.
That
Yeah, you know. I like the brotherly thing that you guys. How long have you known each other? Because you guys got like the way you talk about each other. You just hold each other down. I think that's
Forever. That's my brother.
like super fucking dope. I love seeing
I
that.
think we're going on about 18 years now.
You met each other 18 years ago?
I met Ramses right after his oldest son was born. So I don't know if I'm doing the math right, but that should be about 18 years.
Wow.
He's 19.
Where? How?
So great question. He felt this better. This is our favorite question of all time. So once upon a time, I was in the alcohol and spirits industry. Not long after I came to Arizona, there was
real quick. Q's never drank alcohol. I've never drank alcohol. Q's never done a drug. I've never done a drug. So
love
in the alcohol and spirits industry, but not a partaker, which was like an inside joke where I worked. But when I first got here, there was an expectation that I wouldn't do it. It wasn't personal. It wasn't Q can't do the job. It was more like no one can. I was working for Moet Hennessy at the time, and they had just launched a new Hennessy. And right before that kind of took off, I, like everyone else, had just started to really get engaged with this thing called Twitter. And my thing was I got to connect with people who are popping in the city that I'm in.
Right.
Back then, there were ways, proximity searches and different hashtags and just different filters where you could find the people who are popular where you are. It's kind of like, this is where I am. and it would filter people that you should follow. And there was this cartoon picture of a guy with an afro. And I just thought it was a really cool picture. So I followed the guy and found out that he was a radio person. So I just followed him. You know, the interaction wasn't much back then, because back then you would say, drinking a cup of tea, tweet. Like, you know, we didn't interact on social media then like we do now. Back then it was like a written update of your day. Going to the concert with at such and such. That's the whole tweet.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So years of just interacting with people on Twitter that way, you don't get to know all these people, but you see them. And for Ramses, the avatar, the picture, the cartoon afro guy stood out more than anybody else that I followed. Fast forward, I'm walking through Old Town one night, and I still really haven't started working yet. And this young lady who I'm like on a date with, lightweight, well, Ramses ended my date. He was walking down the street. She saw him and she said, "Oh my God, that's Ramses," and ran away.
What?
When I say that was the end of the date, I mean literally. The date is over. Ramses is walking down the street. She is gone.
What?
But I didn't get offended, because I'm like, yo, that's the cartoon dude with the afro, because he looked exactly like the cartoon painting in real life. So I should have been offended and like, yo, what happened to the girl? But I was also like, yo, that's the dude with the afro. So met him that night, which I don't even think to this day he remembers actually happening. Because that was Ramses then and that's Ramses now. Just moving through life. Like the whole world was in black and white. Ramses was in color, like just floating down the street like a Spike Lee shot. And the next time I interacted with him was way more memorable and way more impactful. So fast forward maybe a year or two, right? So I met him that day. He didn't meet me though. Fast forward, this thing with Hennessy is really starting to take off. And again, they expected me to fail. It wasn't personal about me, but I was pushing a new cognac in the desert. And at the time, tequila and vodka were what moved in Arizona. And a cognac, unfortunately for a lot of Scottsdale club owners back then, meant black people. And the last thing they wanted in their clubs was more black people. So trying to get this cognac off the ground in a market where it didn't perform well and in a nightlife scene that didn't want more black people showing up, I had a lot of challenges. The advantage I had, though, was I knew a lot of celebrities. And as you guys know, celebrity cuts through. That even in some cases, especially in the entertainment space, celebrity cuts through some people's racism. You know, I think of these guys walking through Columbus, Ohio, maybe a month or two ago with Nazi flags and masks over their heads. Those same racist guys walking down the street with the Nazi flags are probably fans of the Ohio State Buckeyes, where most of the star athletes are black men who they root and cheer for. So when I say the celebrity cuts through, that's what I mean. You'll see racist white people show up and cheer very hard for the really, really good black athlete on their hometown team. So for a moment, they kind of suspend their racism to support something that they think is cool. And they'll have that same black man autograph their kid's jersey. Well, my professional career started in marketing professional athletes. So I knew a bunch of them. And to a man, no matter what city in the country they were in, they all flew in for my launch party. A bunch of just shout outs. I couldn't name them all because there's too many, but shout out to friends showing up for me when I needed them. But someone else showed up for me that I wasn't a friend with. And I got an email from my boss's boss. Like, hey, you must be doing a phenomenal job because we got this email about you. And it was on a radio station letterhead from an on-air personality named Ramses Ja. And he taken notice of the work I was doing. Knowing Ramses now, I don't even know if he saw me doing a good job. I think he just saw that I was black.
That's it.
And because I was black, he was going to shout me out and say I was doing great. And what that did was provide more in the way of resources for me to be successful at my job, and kind of, you know, tapped the powers that be on the shoulder and said, hey, this guy who you didn't expect much out of is doing really well in Arizona. And to my credit, I was doing very well. I was leading the United States in sales conversions pushing a product that no one expected for people to buy out here, but I was able to use relationships and just guile. You know, I don't drink, but I understood nightlife. You know, men go out to nightclubs because pretty girls are there. That's the whole science. It's not more complicated than that. They don't go because they have a specific thing that they drink. They don't go for any reason but to impress pretty women. If not for that, men would just stay home and watch sports, or like Ramses and I just hang out with our kids. But the nightlife scene, especially back then, was about impressing women. And this is when bottle service really started to become a thing. Because like 4 years prior to that, we danced at the club. If I saw you at the club, I would ask you to dance.
Love those days.
And we would dance in a way that would incite some different kind of emotions. And again, that was the whole point. Bottle service created this separation at the club where I'm going to go over here and get this table at that time behind this rope so I can look like the more important person in the club. And that's how I'm going to try to get to that same end goal. So I understood that the women are coming to have a good time and party and maybe meet some guys. The guys are coming just to meet women. That's it. So how do I take the science of nightlife and make a successful run at this product that I'm trying to push? Make my product more popular was the strategy. And I understood that if I show up as the rep from the liquor company and give out free shots, it's not going to change anything. Everybody will take my free shot, but they're still going to order whatever they originally ordered. So if you're a person that drinks Coca-Cola and you go to a festival and they're giving out free Pepsi, you'll drink the free Pepsi.
Right.
But when you go to the grocery store, you're still going to buy Coca-Cola.
Right.
So how do I influence this behavior? Well, thank God I'm not the worst looking guy in the world, right? So that's one thing that I have in my favor at the time. I'm not the best looking guy in the world, but I'm not the worst. So we'll start there. Add to that, I have a budget. I have money that I have to spend for this company. So instead of hiring 25, 30 women, which I did because that's what the company mandated, how do I get the best return on this money I'm spending at this club every night? Am I going to go buy 100 shots and give them away for free? Or I'm going to go to the club as a patron and I'm going to get a table. I want the table though. And because these are my accounts, I know the table, I know the GM, I know the owner. These conversations are different. I need the table. And at this time, and this time, I'm going to buy back the cases that you bought. At cost though, I'm not spending the 1,000% markup that the club is charging for that bottle. I'm not paying that. I'm buying it for what it costs. So there's no risk for you. I'm trying to get you to carry this product. So there's no way you lose. I'll come and buy it back. Right. But I'm showing up as a patron. So I want the sparklers and the pretty girls and all that come, all the pomp and circumstance that comes with that. I want that. And what I noticed is peacocking like that had an impact. By the end of the night, there's 20 girls at my table. And now every other man in the club is like, yo, what is he doing? What is he drinking? I need some of that. And just like that, there was a shift. And then now I get to know the DJs. You'll have the DJ announce that I'm buying everybody in the club a shot. It looks like I'm the man. It looks like I just spent thousands of dollars. I just spent $200 or $300. That's not my money. But it was an effective way to market my product, and it worked. So I'm in Arizona, where the Black population is not statistically meaningful. And I'm competing against Indianapolis, Detroit, Atlanta, Chicago, where Black people are in large concentration, Los Angeles, and nobody can compete with me. And this is when influencing started. This is before that was really a thing. And then again, who are popular people in this city? They're going to be influencers for me. The first time I'd ever heard that word or even noticed that idea. Take your popularity and attach it to my product.
Right.
This is 2008 though. This is not 2020. This is way before there was a whole marketplace for that type of activity, right? So, figuring that out. But a springboard I got at that time was this letter from this guy who I met one time, who kind of took my girl from me on a date I was on. And the funny thing about taking the girl though, I think she just fanned out, went and said hi, and then that was it. I don't think, I'm actually sure they didn't exchange information and date themselves. But I understood in that moment, I can't date her, because if you'll see another man and spaz like that and just leave me standing here, our experience is over. But, that was my first introduction to Ramses Johnson.
Let me add some stuff, if I may. first off, I don't remember that, but we did
That's
meet that
hilarious.
night because I've heard that story.
We were outside of a nightclub called Access and Radius.
Oh my God, I remember
I
that
know this specifically.
So-
Like, this
so
is
we
not
met that
imagination.
night. Now I don't remember meeting, but I do remember him saying that we met that night. And just so people that don't know me or people that might have heard of me, Q says that I was very kind and
Yeah, he wasn't.
Yeah.
We called it high siding back in the Midwest. When you like treat somebody like they're beneath you or
Yeah, I
less
never
than
did
you,
that.
it was no energy like that. The only thing whack about the interaction is that I was with the girl and then I wasn't. Like he was so the man that the girl that I was out with, it might as well have been Chris Brown walking down the street. She spazzed and like ran over to him, and I'm like, oh, that's the dude from Twitter. So I kind of had a fan moment too.
So that and again, I don't remember this, so I can't say that it didn't happen, but
I wouldn't lie to y'all.
Now the other thing that I do want to say is that that letter, that part I do remember, and we did meet, and Q did tell me a little bit about what he was doing, and he mentioned some of those points in the conversation, and so at the time, bear in mind, like, I'm not on the radio only. I'm on like TV. I'm on billboards. I'm like every month there's a new magazine, and I'm not in the magazine. I'm on the front page, like the cover of the magazine, the newspaper, and then I have videos. I'm interviewing these artists that come to say, like, this is what's happening in this moment. So in this city, I recognize, I'm a person that matters. What I say matters. People are looking to me, and immediately responsibility comes into play. So, quick side story: both of us. My father was a minister. He's passed now. Q's mother is a minister, right? So we come from this faith-based tradition, but also we were able to see the person that mattered the most to us when we were young, what that role meant in terms of community. Okay, so you have this. Now you're at the helm of this, whatever, stage, platform, whatever you want to call it, and people are looking to you. You have to be responsible with that. You have to share opportunities and create them for people. You have to, what good did you do with the moment that you had? Who else did you share that with? Or did you consume it all for yourself? To me, that is the epitome of cowardice. And I'm just not made that way. Like, if I have it, then we have it. And hey, everybody come here, let's figure this out together. I've lived such an amazing life. I've seen the world. I've seen this country. I've seen all 50 states. I've held my own son. I've seen him walk. I've seen him. My son plays the guitar. I've such a blessed life. How dare I not share an opportunity? I've always kind of felt this way. So, when it comes to Q, the conversation that we had was kind of framed by these goings on in my world. Right? And he's saying to me, I have this new product. I'm in this city. They don't expect it to work because I don't drink cognac. It's a cognac, and black people drink cognac. And this market doesn't have enough black people to support a launch like this, but it's one of the test markets, so we're going to take it black. And that's not the limit of my generosity, but I do recognize and respect that some people have a harder go at things than other people. And when I do share my talent or my platform with people who don't have a harder go, think straight, Christian, healthy, white men.
Yes.
When I do share with that type of person, my only ask is that you then share an opportunity with someone who was not born in the same set of circumstances as you. And so for me, where I'm going to plant my seeds, where I'm going to take a time to write a letter, where I'm going to do these things, is where I feel like there's going to be the most need, or there's the most amount of strikes against the person, or where people might expect a person to fail. And often enough, that ends up being black women. But in Q's case, I saw what he was doing. I knew what I was able to do, and I did that. And Q's not the only example of it, but that is the nexus of this brotherhood. That story was based on that. And you could go through this whole city. You could go to every radio station. You could go everywhere and you could ask, does anybody know Ramses? Has Ramses done something kind? Has he gone out of his way? And if my legacy is nothing else, my hope is that there will always be a person, even if our story doesn't end up exactly where we would have hoped, that they will have to be honest with themselves and say, yes, there was a point where Ramses took the time to invest in me because he had it and I didn't, and he wanted to share it with me. So Q's story, I believe, is another example of that. I don't think I'm special either for people that might take this. I don't think that. I just think I was very lucky.
He is special.
Thank you for
You
that.
can take that.
Thank you for that. But I
Yeah,
think
thank you.
I think I was very lucky.
No, you're both.
And I was very responsible with the luck, because I just as easily could have stayed in California, Compton, and grew up in a different set of circumstances and been dead or in jail the same way Keith and David across the street from my house were when I was little, the same way, like I was no different from those people. I just happened to have a different outcome in terms of where my path was going. And so hopefully none of that sounds like I'm healing myself, because that's not it. I will share with anybody who
There's too many sensitive people out there. It's like, you're a fucking good person, Ramses. Like you've always been, from what I've known of you, and I noticed that too when I moved from Chicago to Arizona. I always had, from when I came from Chicago, I made people cry all the time. I'm like, why are you crying? What did I say? What did I say? What did I do? It was mainly, I'll give you an example. Can you give me that broom? The manager's like, Neveen, can I talk to you? And I'm like, yeah, what's up? Well, you said to her, can you get that broom? I go, yeah, because I needed the broom. And he's like, it's the way you said it. Way too sensitive. So I learned throughout living here, I had to do a lot of that. Like, I'm not trying to offend you. I just mean, this is what I mean. I'm sorry if that hurt you. And you know what happened with that is I had to start bringing myself down to make them feel comfortable. And that's where I started getting taken advantage of and talked about and feeling like I couldn't say that, hey, I'm fucking special and I'm dope and I'm kind and I'm sweet and all these things. And then I went the other, they brought me down to their level to make themselves comfortable. So now all of a sudden I'm over here just getting taken advantage of and people just saying whatever they gotta say. Well, y'all brought me back to that side because you know what?
Q's good at that. He'll bring you back. He'll bring you right back. Like, no, you are special.
You are.
Own it, live in it, lean into it. Yeah, he does that to me quite a bit.
There's enough people that'll tell you that you're not. So I'm not going to let you tell you that you're not too.
Exactly.
But my thing, the basis for this, since we're having a human moment in the conversation, the basis for this is not just other people's opinion of me, but also my opinion of myself, because I do recognize that when you do have a story like the one that I have, last night I was in a room full of people all staring up at me, adoring me. I have a microphone and I'm, everyone's, a lot of people don't have that experience.
Right.
Certainly don't have it with any real frequency. And this has been my life for decades.
Right.
I've accomplished things. Our radio show, it used to be syndicated nationally.
Oh, please tell me.
Now I don't even know what to call it, because as of the weekend prior to us taping this, iHeart has put our show on, I think we were on something like 40 iHeart stations total. And now that number is, they told us that they're adding our show to all of their hip hop stations, So iHeart owns half the radio stations in the country. So every single iHeart hip hop station.
Congratulations, you guys. I saw that.
Thank you.
Wow, there's more?
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Every hip hop station, every R&B station,
Dang.
every throwback station,
Oh my God.
every gospel. We're on all of the BIN stations, Black Information Network stations, and we're still in talks with a gentleman named Chris Berry for all of the talk stations. So we're talking the little show that we do, where we share our thoughts about how the world can be a better place.
Is that the Civic Cipher?
Civic Cipher, indeed.
Okay.
Is now not shared with hundreds of people, hundreds of markets, hundreds of radio stations that then share it with their communities around the entire country. And so for a person, to make my point, for a person who has had the type of success that I've had, and I've been surrounded by That's my best friends that I grew up with. Names like Geo, names like Jello, names like Kev. You know, I've known these people since we were babies.
I love those guys.
Right? We literally grew up together, played with toys together, like all that.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
Even the success that surrounds me is success that other people aren't necessarily accustomed to. And so, in addition to making sure that I represent myself well for the benefit of other people, I also want to make sure that I remain true to who it is that I'm supposed to be. I never blind myself. I never trick myself. I always recognize that in my heart of hearts, I am a servant. I will be served, but I am too a servant. I am a leader. I too can follow and support, but I will lead. You know, and all the things I will, as I mentioned in the first part of our conversation, I will have the full experience. And I think that in order for me to remain on an even kilter, I think that's the phrase, sometimes it is important for me to let the work speak, let the results speak. And I don't necessarily need to say the things myself, because either you know them, or if you don't know them, then I need to work harder so that you will know them. But me talking about myself, I'm the type of person where I know I could lose sight of myself if I lean too far into that. And so there's another half of it. And I try not to let the language that I use trick myself into thinking, oh, I'm him. No, I wait, know that I'm. So does that make sense?
So,
Sometimes, however, sometimes
let him tell it, because he can tell you better.
trick yourself to the opposite extreme. So it's not just not feeling yourself and not obviating about how dope you are.
Yeah, this is true.
Instead of not saying anything, you say the opposite. And that's where I have to step in.
That's
Don't
true.
just let the work speak. You go out of your way to like make yourself sound less than.
Sometimes.
And that's what I'm not okay with. And with anybody who is a friend of mine or somebody that I care about and support, I'm not going to sit next to you and let you tell people that you're less than whatever comes after it. I'm not going to let you shrink. I'm not going to let you shrink. Shrink yourself.
Turn that knob
for other people's comfort, right? So you don't have to. You don't have to be arrogant. You don't have to be boastful. You don't have to tell people, "Hey, I'm dope," but you're definitely not going to tell people, "Hey, I'm not dope." Like, in what world am I going to sit next to you while you do that? That's not happening.
He's real good at that. Because like I'll be talking, I won't even catch it. I'll just think that I'm kind of, you know, heeding the gravity of the moment, or I'm kind of speaking to the room or speaking to the moment. And he's not wrong, because this has happened a few times where he'll say, nope, pause. I need to add something to what Ramses said, because he left out something very important, and he'll say something. And I'll be like, oh God. And you know, you mentioned it earlier, Q thing.
Yeah.
The work that we do is very, very taxing. For the little bit that people do see, there's so much that we have to sift through to decide what it is that we are going to share, and the emotional toll that sifting takes. Because imagine reading 10 heartbreaking stories and only being able to talk about one. People will think, okay, you guys, your show is talking about some heavy topics. Well, no, you don't get the other 90% that we couldn't even talk about, but it's still on our spirit, right? So we have to be strong for each other. We have to kind of prop up each other. And I my hope is that I will never, ever, ever let you down. But man, you have not failed me.
Respect.
So thank you for always keeping me, again, even kilter. I think that's how you say it. But yeah, he's.
Got me all emotional stuff.
That's my guy, man. That's my guy.
I love. No, man, like for real, like this is great to witness. Okay, everything that I represent, 100% is love, right? At the end of the day, like, what's your religion? None of your business. It's love,
I got
okay?
you right here. Look.
Right.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, so, got you.
So love, to me, God is love, right? But to see people like a genuine like friendship and you guys hold each other down is so important. And this is why I like to talk about everything like realness, like when I'm on camera, because we need more of that. I feel like people are so lost in the sauce on like social media that everything's just going fast. And it's like, why are you all unhappy? Why are you not having successful relationships? Slow the fuck down, right? And take it back to one. And that's love, right? Have those solid like friendships and the solid relationships. Like the last 4 years have been like the most complicated for me. Like the most difficult. I don't want to talk too much about it because I get emotional, but thank God for the friends that I do have, because I have recently finally started picking myself back up and like feeling myself like myself again. You know, I lost my breast, I had the breast cancer, my mom passed away, my dad passed away, like so much happened this last year. And to fucking think, like, I'm finally like feeling like myself again, feeling beautiful again, and I'm like doing the things that I love. I think there's a hater that keeps making a fake pages to go under my pictures to tell me how ugly they think I am. Like,
Who would say that?
I don't know.
Oh,
Like,
man,
it's
listen,
a
you are a gorgeous human being.
I am a gorgeous human being.
You are art. And take it from somebody who knows art. That is you.
I love you. Thank you for that. I mean, and that's where when I was saying, like, back then I'd be like, okay, let me shrink myself down. But now I'm not gonna, like, I don't even address them anymore. I just like, they say that, I just delete the comment, because I'm like, I'm not gonna sit here and try to prove to you like, hey, I'm be, because look, I love who I am. I've been through so much that nobody can take away my confidence. Because when you go through some real shit, and I know you guys have been through some real shit, like, to be alive for me is enough, and I don't take that for granted. So somebody that's on the other end trying to call me ugly, my back in the day instinct would be like, I'm gonna fuck you up, bitch. Like, show me who you are, I'm gonna fuck you up. But now I'm like, I'm sorry you feel like that. I'm sorry that you don't think you're beautiful. So it's like a mirror, like whatever you're recognizing in me, that's why like some pictures I'll put, whatever you see in me is what you see in yourself. So if you think my nose is ugly, you think your nose is ugly. If you think I'm ugly, you think you're ugly. So for me, it's like, I'm sorry you feel this way. Like, I'm going to send you love, and I hope you feel better and go manifest, go pray. You need God. And that's all I could do, you know, for whatever. So are you guys getting hate? Like, hate?
Listen, man, it's next level.
Yeah,
How do you maneuver around that? Like,
there's an interesting thing that happens with hate, right? You know, hateful, disrespectful, and mean words from strangers are not supposed to impact you. That's what we're taught as children. I had an interesting upbringing. You know, I was able to go to the same school from kindergarten to 6th grade, which just simply means I knew every student in the school. It, however, did not mean I was popular. I just literally knew everybody.
okay.
And when you wear glasses and have a bad haircut and your clothes match a little too much, and you're wearing hand-me-downs and you don't have name brand stuff and you're a nerd, people make fun of you. They call it bullying now, but we didn't have a term for it back then. Kids were just mean. And of course, my mother, you know, Reverend Estella Seacrest, I love you, Mom, would always tell me the, you know, words don't hurt thing. And I'm like, Mom, that's not true. Like, they absolutely do. Now, the kids at school are not changing my opinion of myself. I'm not coming home thinking I smell bad or I'm ugly or whatever they're saying that's mean, but it still sucks to hear it all the time. And there was times where I would pretend to be sick just so I could go home and not have to endure, you know, being talked about bad at school. I've never shaken that. You know, I was married once upon a time, and after my divorce, I got thousands of mean messages from strangers because, you know, she said that I was awful. And people that loved and cared for her, supported her, whatever the case, felt like it was their duty to come tell me how awful I was. There was never a request for my side of the story, if you will. It was just, okay, she said it, it must be true. Let's go tell him how we feel. And that led to me getting off of social media for 3.5 years.
Wow.
Kind of really escaping the world for 3.5 years. I moved to Asia, canceled my phone, canceled my email, and got off all socials and kind of went and reset. What we deal with is very interesting because this generation lacks the solidarity that our forefathers had. So we'll come out and speak out against something that we think is obviously wrong.
Right.
Like obviously anti-Black, obviously anti-us. We're going to ride for us, and us is going to ride with us. And what we end up getting is hate from those who oppose us and hate from the people who we're standing up for because they don't fully understand what we're dealing with. And, you know, some of it is expected. The N-word stuff, we're ready for that. Of course that's coming. But when our people stand up against us and try to tear us down. That's always very confusing and very hurtful, especially because sometimes it's not people like us by association. It's people we actually know personally. And that always impacts us in a way. So we, you know, I am no longer, because I used to be one of the administrators on all of our socials. I had to take myself off because I'm not bulletproof in that way. Some people are absolutely unfazed by other people's opinions. You guys are rock stars and superheroes. I wish.
Right.
It always impacts me. And so I have to just pull myself away from it, you know, with friends, with family, with professional associates and colleagues who I really, for some reason, I always expect people to be on the right side of things. And I'm always surprised when they're not. And I'm always hurt when they're not. So I haven't yet mastered kind of turning that off and not feeling it. Ramses is better at that than I am. So he, you know, kind of mans the battle station with regards to comments and, you know, our pages. Ramses posting ghost is what he says. But I have to kind of remove myself all the way from it because I do see the comments. I do see the messages, and it always has a negative impact on me.
You're a creative though, but you're both creative. So I still will work with artists, but not like how I used to, like managing and stuff. But like all the artists that I've worked with in the past, like manage. I say creatives are superheroes. Our minds are created differently. So it's hard not to feel some type of way when someone's coming at you saying, like all my artists were like, no, I don't want to be on social media. I just fucking hate it. So they didn't want to post or get on it because you have 100 people saying, oh my God, I love your music. You're amazing. And then you have those 4 fucking douchebags that come on your page over and over again to tell you how much they hate you and how much you suck and your music sucks. And like my artists will, some of them are like, I don't want to do this anymore, and start to second guess themselves. So I know like you have to be a sensitive, good-hearted soul to like, to feel those things, right? But I don't know. It's just a lot of the artists that I've worked with don't like to be on social media either because, I mean, who wants to fucking read that shit?
Yeah, life is interesting in that way. There's no positive counterbalance to negativity. That's not just in this creative space that we're in. You know, Ramses and I both songwriters, producer, you know, we speak into microphones, and DJing is kind of what people know us for. But, you know, I did a tour of this place when I got here today, and I had to tell Fleek, like, I've written songs in all these rooms. Like
Really?
I've been to this place for years, and I've written some smashes in these rooms too. So maybe I'll play something for people one day. I don't share my music with anybody. Like Ramses might be one of 6 people on earth that has heard songs that I've written.
He's really good.
But with life, there seems to be no counterbalance to negativity, and that applies to kind of everything. If we turn this into a relationship podcast, right? All of us could come up with like our deal breakers. Like, yo, if this person did that, it will be over.
Do it. I want to be.
And the interesting thing about that is there's no counter positive to that.
Right.
There's no deal sealer. There's no one thing you can do that, okay, now I'm with you.
Right.
There's a one thing you can do that I'm done with you. And that's so unfair. Like it makes me like, why enter into any relationship when there's absolutely something that could make that person throw you away forever? But no, you can't do enough good for them to hold on to you forever.
Aww.
And I know that's true because in the hypothetical sense I've asked, you know, you're married to this man for 25 years. He goes on a guy's trip with his boys and he cheats on you in Las Vegas. Do you leave him? Yes.
He said,
what? For 25 years, he's been faithful. He's been loyal. He's provided. You and the kids went to college. He paid for you to go to college. He paid for you to get your master's degree. He bought you that Mercedes. He bought you the 5-carat diamond ring. He's been awesome. But he cheated once, so you're done. And the scariest thing is everyone in your support group, all your friends, all your families will tell you that you're right. Good for you. You kicked him to the curb. He deserved it. The 25 years of awesome doesn't matter because he made the mistake. So again, there's no counterbalance to negativity.
I don't want people to think that he's condoning that. This is the
no.
But it's to make sense.
I'm not condoning anything that hurts anybody. I don't think our goal should be to hurt anyone. I can't subscribe to the idea that there's no equity in the good that you do. I should be able to do enough good that if I make a mistake and do bad, you don't throw me away.
Right.
And it's the same with the critiques of what we do. All of our comments don't suck.
Right.
All of the comments aren't negative. It's just that they're louder. we hear them at a different frequency. They hit home harder. So like you said, your music is dope, your music is dope, your music is dope, your music sucks. That your music sucks, you muted that your music is dope.
Yeah.
You heard that your music sucks.
Right.
And it's an unfair thing about life. You know, negativity does not have a positive counterbalance. We watch that with our elections. We watch that with the way that we critique, scrutinize, and criticize each other. You know, those who oppose us, I've said this on every show that we produce and every show that we've been a guest on. Those who stand to collectively benefit from us being oppressed and marginalized can disagree about almost everything, except that they're better than us and we don't deserve it. And they will unite on that one thing. We as a collective will agree about 1,000 things, but there'll be one thing that we disagree about, and that will keep us splintered and apart. And as long as that's the truth, we will never be able to overcome those that oppose us. That we've found a way, or I don't want to blame the victims. I know people don't like the word victim, but you can be a victim of circumstances. You can be the victim of a system designed against you. The masterful play of that system is they've caused us to look left and right at each other and see an enemy, and see a cause for our oppression, and see a cause for everything that we wish we had that we don't, while they rob us. And they used to rob us blind. They rob us in front of us now.
Yeah.
They don't even hide it anymore, because the play that they put down was so masterful. They don't need to hide anymore. We're so busy blaming one another. White people blaming black people blaming immigrants, immigrants blaming other immigrants. Like, while the rich, the hyper wealthy, and people who would rather see us never have anything good laugh, holding everything that we wish we had behind their backs, laughing at us as we fight each other for the scraps that they left.
Right.
So it's an interesting time and an interesting world that we live in, where we cannot collectively look out for each other. Empathy and humanity seem to be at an all-time low. I watch people talk about how the people who just lost their homes in LA deserve it. Based on what?
Oh, hell no.
Like
I didn't hear that.
Because they've had some, even if your idea is that
Because they hate
everybody in LA is rich and everybody's a celebrity, still they deserve to lose everything.
No.
That doesn't benefit you in any way.
Right.
Right. So this idea that we cannot love and want the best for one another is a really, really scary truth that's starting to show itself. And we're in this anything as long as it makes me money phase of life, and watching people who a lot of us would consider heroes kind of sell out for the bag is a
I want to add something.
Scary thing.
If I may. Okay. So we're talking about the comments. Watch this. We're listening right now to Q. Okay. Q breaks that down masterfully, as he does. Q is brilliant. He's eloquent. He's insightful. Everything that a person might want from someone to provide, a vision, path forward, help a person make sense of a thing. Right? He's got all that in spades. Where I sit, back to, the life I've lived and the things I've accomplished. It's very difficult for me to take advice from people who have not accomplished what I've accomplished. I have not seen what I've seen, not done what I've done. Right. It's easier for me to take advice from people who have done what I've done or more. Right. Those are the people that I look up to. I aspire to replicate their successes, those sorts of things. Right. In the same way, that I pick and choose who to receive advice from, who to receive inspiration from. When I look at the comments section, because I haven't looked at the comments in ever. It's been years since I've read the comments, right? But once upon a time when I did, and I've recognized that if you see the same post over and over again, it can cause you to warp your own reality. I'll put a real quick story. I put a post up saying that it was a very pro, we need to do something about climate change, something that I thought was sensible and that I thought the majority of us would agree on, because it's science, it's scientific, it's documented, there's data, etc. And the algorithm got it twisted up to where it was shown to like far right people that don't believe in science or climate change or any of these things, right? So all of the comments were calling me all kinds of silly sheep. You know, the Democrats have indoctrinated me, whatever, over and over again. And as much mental fortitude as I believe that I have in that moment, it was a few days later, because it was, you know how when something goes viral,
Yeah.
it kind of takes off a little bit and it keeps coming in. The comments keep coming in for a few days.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this and I'm like, all these people saying the same thing. Am I the one that's been tripped? And I started to doubt myself.
Oh, yeah.
And I had to call my brother and I had to call people that, you know, I look up to. I'm like, hey man, listen, I'm kind of going through a thing. Am I crazy? And I had to have that reset. So this was years ago, but
Right.
what I learned is that the people in the comments section, by and large, are uninformed, underinformed. They subscribe to a different reality. Maybe they have everything that they need, but they just have a different value system from me. And maybe they're well-meaning, well-intentioned. Most of them are not. I will not give that to the comment section ever. Most of them are trolls. You know, it's what they do, right? They call you all kind of names and they're bots and all kinds of weird stuff, right? But for people that feel like they have something to offer, a conversation that we have posted on our Civic Cipher page or whatever page, why in the world would I listen to that person over someone who is as eloquent and as masterful in terms of taking this a situation, making heads or tails of it, applying logic, applying journalistic integrity, applying data, and then giving a balanced take that includes the sensitivities of, and not just the sensitivities, but the word I'm looking for is the like the value system of the people who we are trying to support. This is something that Q does. And I don't need to look to the comments section for validation to know if I'm right or wrong or anything like that. And so this is again why we have a solid framework where he can say, Ramses, the social media stuff does not work for me. And I can say, Q, as long as you keep being Q, I can take care of that. Posting ghosts. And so we have our own little system. And so it works, man. You know, I mean, for people that comment, if you're watching this, I'm not going to read your comments. I don't care. I couldn't care less. You know, I don't even like social media. I do it because we're literally on the radio in 100, that used to be the case. Now hundreds, plural, of locations around, cities around.
We got to get a list soon so we can actually
so we can say that, because it's so the number's so high, it's not even real anymore. It's not even a thing that you would count. What difference does it make if it's whatever number? When we started our show, we were hoping that we were going to get on a terrestrial broadcast station.
I'm going to get back on the radio, because some people might not know that story. We left radio.
But,
you know, Ramses and I were as poppin' as you could be, right? At the time, I'm the in-arena DJ for the Phoenix Suns. We have our own radio show, and then Ramses has another radio show. So we're doing as well as you can do in a city in this career. And that summer, George Floyd, and people that know that story know how difficult that moment was for the world, not just for Black people, not just for Americans, but the world. And it was the first time that we seemed to have some solidarity around the idea of a law enforcement agent killing someone and everyone collectively saying, okay, that was wrong. Not yeah, but, or why did he resist, or why didn't he just listen, or he was actually a criminal, and all that stuff came later. But in the moment, everyone was like, okay, no, that's not it. And, you know, Ramses and I, when it comes to stuff like that, we have big mouths. And on the radio at the time, hip hop radio, you're supposed to be celebrating. It's a party. We got Cardi B coming up, the Migos, concert tickets, call in number 5, whatever the case. And taking a moment to sober the audience and turn the party down and stop the fun to talk about this thing that happened was not what the powers that be wanted us to do. So Ramses, being far more diplomatic and just intelligent than myself, knowing radio better than me, presented the station with a layup. Every time we retell this story, I can't figure out why they didn't take us up on the chance to really seem like they were doing a lot while doing nothing, right? Those familiar with radio, there's some inventory at the station that you work at, television station, radio station, whatever, that is reserved for public service. And some of you who have been up late enough at night have seen what looks like an infomercial talking about Mothers Against Drunk Driving, talking about giving back to the forest, talking about something that is service driven for the community that your broadcast station and signal is required to do.
By the FCC.
It's typically in the middle of the night, not rated. There's no ads being sold. So the radio station that we were at, we simply asked, hey, let us speak up for and with our community in that space. We can have civic leaders, community leaders, organizers, educators come on and just talk about what's going on outside. It'll be something the station can do to show that they stand in solidarity with the community that you're benefiting from, that you're profiting off of. And the idea they thought was a great idea. Yeah, Ramses, we should do that. That's a great idea. Of course they didn't.
Course.
And I said this to Ramses before. I think they thought eventually it would just calm down and go away. The story would die and there'd be no need to service that audience anymore. Except, like I said, the entire world came outside and everyone decided in that moment, even if temporarily, that we'd seen enough and that it just wasn't okay. Ramses, however, and if any of our colleagues in the industry hear this, they'll know that I'm telling the truth. Because Ramses is an honest, loyal person. If he looks at you and gives you his word that he's going to do something, he will kill himself to deliver on that. He just expects the same back. Mm-hmm. If you tell him you're going to do something, he just expects you to do it. He doesn't expect you to knock over a building to do it. But he at least expects you to try to deliver on what you said you would do. He doesn't even expect you to go as far as he would to deliver on that. But he expects you to try to deliver.
Right.
So he just followed up. Hey, you guys, remember the show we talked about? Q and I said we would produce it or voice it or whatever for free. Are we still going to do that? Is that something that's still happening? And I wasn't present when this part of the conversation happened, so I'll let Ram just take the story over here. But this was a pivotal moment in our careers and a moment that we thought, honestly, that our careers in radio were over.
Yeah. So, so I was trading on that promise that they were going to do more than, just put the little black square on Instagram. They were going to give us time to bring up all the leadership from all the protests so they could explain, what happened to Breonna Taylor, so they could explain what does defund the police mean? They could explain all these new concepts. They could tell us where the next protest would be and what to look out for and what to wear, right? And since this is the hip hop station, and this is a decidedly black moment in the timeline of this country, it felt like, hey, you're not Best Buy, Black Square, Instagram. You could be better than that. You're using these people's culture. You're using my culture. Using my people who are making money. And I'm here to hold you accountable. And these are the types of conversations that I was able to have with them because I've always been this person.
Right.
When I was in college, I was the president of the Black Student Union when I was in college. He has a very similar story when he was in college as well. And so they already knew this about me. And they, up to that point, I thought, I was devastated. I thought that they had appreciated that. Like, hey, man, listen, I'm always going to be your brother, old white man. I'm always going to be your brother, even if you're wrong. That's my test, especially when you're wrong. I will still be your brother. Right now, I need you to be mine. And you know better. And that was what happened. They told me when I followed up, the program director's exact words were, Ramses, I don't want to do a black show. Now this is a hip hop station.
I know.
You don't want to do a black show. And he said that to me. And I always
blew my mind when he told me that.
Right. I always been me. You know what I'm saying? So when he said that to me, I was like, I was like gutted. And he could tell because I was like, you know, that little, like, I
Yeah.
can't, like, did you really say that out loud? And he immediately tried to cop a plea, like, hey man, listen, we're just gonna run the PSAs that we're already running. I think it was about like brushing your teeth, healthy hygiene, dental hygiene or whatever. And like, and he could not know. I'll give him that. He could not know how insulting that was. But it was insulting nonetheless.
Not knowing how insulting it was is worse.
That's not a
Well, no, it's worse.
Okay.
To be that unaware.
So watch this. Because I had traded on the promise that he initially made, that I expected him to be useful. There were people ready to come up. The Black Mothers Forum, Janelle Wood was going to come up. Alejandra Pablos, who she was working with, remember the kids in cages down by the border at Izan? We were working with Chicanos por la Casa. We were working with Cordero in Action. We were, of course, Black Lives Matter Phoenix Metro. We were working with all these people trying to set up White Paws. We were all these groups, these orgs, trying to get them to come up and, okay, this week we'll do you, next week we'll do you. And they kept pushing back the timeline. So he said no, because I had traded on that promise. My hands were tied. And my hands being tied in a moment where I was heartbroken. I'd known these people for years. I broadcasted with them, friends. And I don't think they're bad people, but they do the wrong thing at the wrong time to the wrong person. They said that was the wrong way to handle that. And so for me, they made this decision for me. And by extension, they made it for Q, because he didn't know this was happening.
Yeah, he made this decision for us.
But yeah, so I was like, okay, well, it's time. You know, my career in radio is done, because this individual said I don't want to do a Black show, and so I wrote my resignation letter, and rather than send it to the radio station, I called Q. To be fair, like, hey, so
I'm about to do something.
No. It was already done. We quit.
We don't work there no more. Cool. But here's the thing.
It's already done.
Here's the thing. When you drop a bomb like that, radio is such a small industry that when you quit like that, you never get hired again.
When you quit, like what? You didn't really describe
Oh yeah,
that.
no. I instead of sending them my resignation, I posted it on social media, addressed to the city, thanking the city of Phoenix for all the rape, for allowing me the opportunity to raise my son, to have this amazing life, and to say to Phoenix, you've given this to me. This was my moment to give to you. And I tried, and I failed, but I will not forget what you've done and what you deserve. And so I will keep working to get you what you deserve in this moment. You deserve better than that. So I won't be there. I'm going to stand with you. You stand with me, and we'll get you what you deserve. And so it was like a love letter. It was like a thank you. It was a bye. It was all these things wrapped in one. And so that's how the radio station found out that I had resigned.
And the radio station had to be held accountable. So Ramses named
That's hard.
the person who said, I don't want a Black show. Their name was in that letter.
Everybody's name.
The person that was the president of that radio station, their name was in that letter.
Yeah, all of
The GM of that station, their name was in that letter. So it was he burned the place down. That station is no longer called what it was called then. It's programmed different. It's image different. Like, they changed everything because of how violently and publicly we left there. Not physically violent, of course not. We don't work there anymore. We never showed up again. So it wasn't violent in that way, but violent in a way, or volatile in a way, that an entire community learned at the same time as that station. And it painted that station in a light that was unflattering, but that was honest. And that was accurate. And as far as we knew, because of the way we did that, no one was going to take us on. And, you know, we will be forever thankful to a gentleman named Steve Earnhardt, who was a market director for iHeart, a person who I'd known for a long time. And he did not know me as a radio personality, which made our reunion a little bit interesting. But a person who didn't even share the same political, socioeconomic, or community leanings that we did, still thought the way that they responded to us wasn't right, and still thought that we deserved somewhere to tell our story and to be able to show up for our community, and gave us an opportunity in Tucson, Arizona. And that ended up being a springboard for, you know, one iHeart station in Tucson led to
now it's
hundreds of stations across the country now. And, you know, Steve, we will never forget that you
Yeah, man,
cared
love you,
enough
bro.
about us, you know, and it wasn't for you. It did nothing for him to look out for us. So he was just being a brother and had to stand up for some guys who didn't have the same message or the same political leanings as him. And we will be forever grateful to Steve for that.
Shout out, Steve. I do remember when you put that up,
Yeah.
and I was like, yeah, I was like, yeah, like was super proud of you for doing that, because
Yeah.
it takes like a lot of courage to walk away from something that you've done for years and years, like, which is like worked in radio, and I've known you from radio. I'm really proud of you for that. Now look at you guys.
That's what
You know what I'm saying? Like,
who could have imagined?
no,
Yeah.
to
We didn't
stand up.
plan this. It's just, I guess, an idea. It was time to
You knew yourself, and you had the boundaries. Like, you know, I was saying, like, you were talking about the relationship, like the deal breaker or whatever, but it goes back to boundaries too. Like, you know who you are, and like you had your boundaries, and you're like, you know what, that didn't feel good, and no, I'm good. And you believed in yourself, and I think it takes a lot of courage to say like, nah, I'm better, and I deserve better than that. And
Yeah.
you walked away, and you stay true, and look at you guys now, and you're doing your thing. I'm very proud of you, and it's such a great example. And hopefully you guys out there will like learn from these guys that like know yourselves and be okay to be okay, and be okay to like love who you are, and know that you can have opportunities if you put your mind to it. Just like stay strong in what you believe. Love yourself. Before we wrap up, I do want to just kind of touch on this lightly, because I'm sure you guys have talked about it so many times. Kanye West. Huh? Thank you guys so much for watching the show. We're gonna have a part 2 with these guys, because they're just,
We hope so.
I know for sure, because you guys are like have so much information and like knowledge that I want to continue talking to you.
Yeah.
You know, there's just so much greatness with you, and I'm sure you have so many more gems that you could offer to everybody.
God bless you.
Thank you so much. Let everybody know like where they could find you.
You can find us on all social media at Civic Cipher. You can find me personally on all social media at Ramses Ja.
I am Q Ward on all social media as well. Come follow me on Fanbase.
Yeah, Fanbase is
If
one.
you haven't heard about that yet, download Fanbase, invest in Fanbase when it becomes huge like all these other socials. Let it be some financial windfall for you and your family. So invest in, join, and promote Fanbase.
And then I'd like to add one more thing. If you are interested in, downloading our show, you can stream it. You can get it as a podcast. That's at civiccipher.com. We have a weekly production schedule for that show. And we also host the Black Information Network Daily podcast. And so we have a daily production schedule for that show.
Wow.
That's at binnews.com or iheart.com. You can find both of the shows because we are in the iHeart ecosystem, and both of our shows are distributed by iHeartMedia. And so we're not hard to find at all, but you can kind of get a little bit more for those just coming to the table, get a little bit more about what it is we do day to day. Today's conversation was more about who we are as people.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're really trying to do something, and we'd appreciate your support, either following us or checking out either show or both shows.
Ramses said he doesn't respond to the comments, and that's true. But iHeart does have a function where you can come and talk to us.
The red microphone talkback feature on the iHeartRadio app. You can hit us up, let us know, whatever. And then I'm talking about the comment section.
The trolls.
If you send me a DM or something like that, I can get back to you. I'm not. I got you, but I'm not about to just read through 700 comments of people calling me all kind of names.
Yeah, come talk to us.
Yeah,
red microphone talkback feature, iHeartRadio app. One time for iHeart, man. That's a great partner we have over there.
Indeed. So hopefully we'll talk to you soon. All right.
Thank you guys so much for coming.
Yeah.
I thank you so much. You are gonna come back. I actually have a show too of my own that's about there. I'm gonna start filming. You guys like that? Go to Neveen The Queen on Instagram. You can also go to SongLab Live if you want to get an interview specifically for music or whatever it may be. But you can hit me on SongLab Live or Neveen The Queen.